Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Jader and Kyle Show. Every week, guys, we like to come on here with a big hoorah, big happiness, and it's gonna be a happy show. We're gonna have a good time tonight. It's gonna be a celebration, but it's been a tough week for a lot of people, and with the passing of Chadwick Boseman, it's been really hard on everyone. But I'm not alone today. Jader, it's good to see you as always, man.
Always, man. Episode 22, Wakanda Forever.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, no. I mean, it's obviously it's it's a tough time for movie fans throughout. Having such a call him a early legend, man. And the way that he was going, just every role was getting better and better, and losing him unexpectedly, expectedly, I guess, for the family, or I don't even know if I want to use that, but them knowing, obviously what was happening, but he kept it from everyone. So it was kind of like a big shocker to hear that this was going on. But it sucks again. We're here to celebrate and to, maybe you guys haven't seen every Chadwick Boseman movie, so our job here is to like get you out to besides Black Panther, which is completely understandable. But if you haven't seen a movie and we can recommend, I urge you guys to go see it because he has a lot of great films. I did a run this week just to refresh my memory, preparing for the show, and I forget how great some of these movies are. There's one movie that I had only seen once, and and one that I hadn't seen at all. There's two actually that I hadn't seen at all, and I saw them this week. Both great. We'll get into that. But I don't know, man. What were you doing? What was going on when you got the news?
Well, it's funny because this happened on the same night as that big Kevin Smith, Chris Jericho Schmodown match. And as the 5-pointer of the last question of that match is going, I get an alert from the Hollywood Reporter saying, Black Panther actor Chadwick Boseman dies at age 43 of cancer. And it's like, the Hollywood Reporter doesn't lie.
They don't mess around. They don't mess around, yeah.
And it sucked the energy out of everything I was feeling because that was a great match that I was watching. And everything just kind of changed from there. And I'll say my piece right now then. This news hit me, I think, in a different way than a lot of people who are looking at from a movie perspective. For those of you who are unaware, I lost my mom to colon cancer about 3 years ago now, actually. She had stage 4 colon cancer, fought it for 4 years. It's tough. It's really tough. So hearing that Chadwick had stage 3 colon cancer and only formed into stage 4 just a couple weeks before he passed away. That's some very hard news to grasp onto because I know exactly what he was feeling throughout all those years. The pain that my mom went through going through chemotherapy. She would do the chemo, and then the next 2 or 3 days she's just kind of out, throwing up, not feeling good. It takes a toll on a lot of people, which is why chemo is not a very well-liked thing. Even though it does help a little bit, it doesn't completely heal. I know some people it does heal, but for stage 3 and stage 4, it's really, really tough to be able to survive that. And I want to say people like, get your colonoscopies done as soon as you can. I know it's not a fun thing. It's not pleasant. People make fun of it all the time, but it's very important. If it can take Black Panther, it could take anybody. So everyone needs to watch out for that. But so when I heard this, and you think about all the movies he's made since 2016 with this colon cancer, thinking about how is he getting through these days when he has chemo and not letting anybody know. I think that was the most fascinating part to me, was how nobody had any idea that he had this cancer, that he was battling it. That's a very strong person right there to be able to fight through this, put on a happy face every single day, go to work, and deliver incredible performances every single time, to be a superhero throughout all of that. It's inspiring. So cancer is something that we all are affected by. Yeah. Whether you have it yourself or someone who does, I'm sure a lot of people know someone that has died from it, and it's a disease they haven't found a cure for at this point. And it's really sad to know that he had this for 4 years, but it's also inspiring to hear that he did this, to be able to battle through all these movies and only let his close friends and family know about it. It's shocking. So that's kind of how I took it in. I want people to be able to know that cancer is real, and get your doctor's appointment checkup as soon as you can every single time. If you're one of those people who's held off on it, please go in and do it, because it's super important to be able to prevent this stuff. Because with cancer, if you catch it early, you have a much better chance to defeat it, as opposed to if you catch it late, which for Chadwick and for my mom, it was a little bit too late. So it's definitely sad, and I hope everyone kind of takes that advice and this story and takes that advice to heart.
Yeah, man, you kind of hit the nail on the head, and you kind of said it right now. Everybody kind of knows somebody that's gone through this, whether it's colon, breast, bone marrow, whatever, what have you. Crazy enough, I lost one of my best friends to colon cancer as well. So this one obviously hits close to home for that, and it sucks because again, I was there for him as well. So seeing what you obviously went through with your mother, I kind of went through with him as well. Not all the time because again, I didn't live with him or anything like that. But you know, it takes a toll on you, and I'll never forget one of the last. And it's, you know, I don't want to start somber, but it is a somber moment, you know. But one of the last words that he ever said to me was, I just give up. I'm tired of this shit, you know. And it sucks because there's a lot of people that have this, they fight it, and you know they'll make it through, but it took such a big toll on him, and again, it always takes the best people. That's what sucks, because he was so full of life. The one thing that I've learned from this man, and I live by that code, is that he's always lived his life to the fullest, you know. He's always, that man definitely lived his life. It took a toll on him, in fact, so bad that obviously he went from doing whatever the hell he wanted to not being able to do shit, you know. But I'll never forget that I remember he wanted, like, I went to see him at the hospital, and the doctor was like, hey, he needs to walk, he needs to keep moving, and then he didn't want, he was fighting everybody, he was in a bad mood that day. I happened to be there. I finally got him up, his pops and I was like, hey, dude, come on, let's take this lap, let's walk. He was a big metalhead like me, so I was like, hey, look, the new Slipknot album, came out. Or let's listen to some Slipknot. Let's fuck these hospital walls up, dude. Let's have people that don't care about metal. Let's get them in there. And he's like, fine. And he got up, and we started listening to music. And then I remember he was dying for a Sprite, right? He's like, I want a Sprite, and I was like, can't have that, man. Like, the doctor specifically said no sugars, no nothing. And he goes, I don't care anymore. And that was one of the last words. He goes, I just don't care. He goes, honestly, he goes, why can't I have a fucking Sprite? He goes, I'm probably not going to be here another week. Give me a goddamn Sprite. And that, it takes a toll on you. You don't, and I'm like, look, you may give up, but we're not giving up on you. It just sucks. His whole situation sucks. I can only imagine what his family was going through. I hate this disease. I've literally lost him, which he was one of my best friends, but it wasn't the one that I was closest to. And then 2 years later, literally the closest, the guy I kind of grew up with, dies from the same shit, from cancer. So a lot of people don't know that I mean, if you've seen me, but I have this tattoo here, and the blue is actually for colon cancer, and the yellow is for Ewing sarcoma, which is bone marrow. And it's a big fuck you to cancer. So everybody sees, they're like, oh, it's such a vulgar tattoo, but I'm like, I don't fucking care. Fuck cancer. It literally takes the greats. It really does. And everybody, again, same thing, like kind of like going back to where I was doing the exact same thing you were, but I was driving up to Orlando. I was using my laptop. I hotspotted my phone because I wanted to see the big Kevin Smith match with Chris Jericho, which was going phenomenal. I had not been on the edge of a Schmoedown match in a long time, and I was just so entertained. Their banter was great. It was just, everything was going so great. I had the biggest smile on my face, right? I didn't get the Hollywood Reporter notification. I started noticing on the live chat that people were saying, rest in peace, Black Panther, rest in peace. I honestly thought that they were talking about that maybe somebody missed the match, because I knew I was like on a 15-second, 30-second delay, right? So I'm like, God damn, I'm like, somebody missed a Black Panther question. What the hell? This and that and that. And then I got a CNN pop up. I was in the car with 6 other people, 7 including myself, right? And I have my AirPods on, and these are the pros, so I have the noise cancellation, so they can talk all they want, and I don't hear anything. Right? I had to take it out, and I'm like, guys, and everybody say quiet. I'm like, Chadwick Boseman passed away. Silence. And they're like, no way. And then they all obviously get on their phones and they start Googling, and it's there, and it's crazy. It's just crazy to think. And again, I am another big encourager. Like, hey, go get checked. I know everybody makes fun, or it's weird, or do it because it, just like you said, Kyle, the very first thing. I mean, the earlier you get it, the more you will prevent it.
Yeah.
And you're gonna if it happens to you, you're gonna wish you did. And it's a simple checkup. It is what it is. Just do it, man. Like, and that comes for anything. Just go get a checkup. It doesn't even have to be colon. It could be anything else.
What's really inspiring to me is these people who have it are how big of fighters they are. One of my mom's heroes throughout all this was Stuart Scott, which you don't know who Stuart Scott is. He was a former ESPN anchor who died of cancer as well. And at the year before he passed away, he was at the ESPYs and won the Arthur Ashe Award for Courage.
Yeah.
Or yeah. Arthur, one of the or Jimmy V Award, the Jimmy V Award, right, and he gave the speech saying, you need people to fight for you when you can't fight yourself. And cancer is not about you beat cancer by the way you live your life. And that's what inspires me about all these people who have cancer is how hard they fight. They kind of just say, all right, what's next? What do I need to do? What do I need to do to beat this? And keeping that positive attitude is something that is really important in beating this disease. Because if you look at someone like Chadwick, he got it in 2016 and he died in 2020. That's a long time. My mom, she got diagnosed in September. She was only given till December to live, and then she lasted 4 years. So it's so inspiring. And if you know someone who has cancer, you need to be there for them because they need you so much. I know the strength of me, my sister, my grandmother, everyone who was a part of the family. Us being there helped her progress through this. In the toughest times when she couldn't fight, we were there to fight for her. And telling her that it was okay to stop being in pain was one of the hardest days I've had to go through in my life. And I'm never going to forget that. But I also felt happy after saying that because I knew she wasn't going to be in pain anymore. So, it's just one of those things where looking at Chadwick now to see what he was able to do throughout those 4 years. And, these stories are going to start to come out over these next couple of weeks of what he was like inside his inner circle going through all this. He was very skinny. I remember back at the NBA All-Star Weekend, just back in February, and people were starting to say stuff about him, making fun of him. When now it all makes sense.
They were the main joke that was going around was the strength of the Black Panther was leaving him or some stupid shit like that.
It's awful, and I looked at it as he's just a naturally skinny guy. He'll be fine, and it makes so much sense now. So yeah, guys, please, just treat others with respect. And always think about what they could be going through at home because we don't know it ourselves. I do want to say, too, that we aren't alone today. As soon as this news happened, Jader and I, about 10 minutes after we've kind of found out about it, we're like, well, we gotta talk. Yeah,
we gotta scrap the next episode, whatever it is, and we need to address this. We really do.
We need to bring this up. We need to be able to share with people. And then a couple minutes after that, I got messages from other people saying they wanted to be on the show. We'll get to that just like I just want to look at the comments real quick. You guys are commenting along, especially Jenny. Yeah, we really wanted to start this show with this, and it's gonna be the whole episode. We're gonna talk about this most of the time. It's not gonna be your normal episode here. And then Steve, one day I'll tell the story on here about how the Spider-Man tickets with my mom. It kind of connected really well. So it's almost like a miracle that happened. I ended up in the position I am today because of her. And one day I'll get to that. And then Tim, Fonte Mac, no matter what, we're gonna get the draft day.
We're gonna have to talk about that. Yeah.
And then Absolutely. Steve, Tim, I'll address your question when we get to Black Panther. That's obviously that's a movie we're going to talk about. But One of the first
Oh,
people.
I
Okay,
just read what Tim wrote. We're definitely going to talk about that.
I
I
want
feel
to
like
save the discussion for a little later. Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
But one of the guys who first reached out to me was another guest that we've had on the show before. You're going to see two guests on the show that we've seen before, and they're going to be through here throughout the entire episode. So that first person is Mr. Oh, where is he? Anthony.
There it is.
Anthony, welcome back, man. You
What
reached
up,
out
bro?
to me right away when this news happened, saying if you guys are talking about Chadwick, I want to be on the show this week. And absolutely, man, you're more than welcome to always come back. And I know Chadwick meant a lot to you, so please tell us how this news hit you and what he kind of meant to you.
At first, it was, well, first of all, thank you guys for having me again.
Bro.
And it was very similar to you guys. Like when I first heard it, I thought it had to be like one of those fake reports that always get spread around sometimes on Twitter or whatever. And it was late at night. I was working. You know, I was doing my daily post or whatever. You know, I have to handle different social media sites and what have you. And all of a sudden, the news drops that Chadwick has passed away, and there was so little detail coming out, and like every minute something more was coming out, and to have that kind of horrible feeling also of having to post that, you know, first of all confirming that it happened and then posting it as a job requirement, like you have to post it's big news.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel real, and seeing all these different people and how they were affected, and I was even surprised with how it affected me because you know, I don't really know Chadwick. None of us really know Chadwick, but it was a situation where it didn't feel as though this should have happened or this could have happened. This is a guy who was what, he was 43.
Yeah.
This guy who, by all accounts, had the rest of his life ahead of him, and then in a blink of an eye, everything changed. And it kind of, if anything, it kind of sheds light a little bit of how fragile our all of our lives are. That they can just, it could come and go in an instant. And you know, because sometimes we look at these celebrities and these actors and we think, oh, you know, they're like a different class of people almost. But in reality, they're just as fragile as we are. So yeah, I remember how devastated I was when I heard it, and then what killed me was that you know I was privileged enough that I got to interview Chadwick last, I want to say last November, so it wasn't even
Yeah.
a year ago. So I'm like, I saw this guy less than a year ago.
Yeah.
To have this happen, it just it was devastating. It was devastating.
It's crazy to see our heroes fall is something you never expect to happen. We see these larger in life figures. Back in February, we lost one of my heroes, which was Kobe Bryant. And, you know, he was somebody we were supposed to see grow old and be able to celebrate his life and his long career. Kobe was just getting started on the second half of his career.
Yeah.
He had a great basketball career, one of the best ever. And then he moves into film, and who knows? He was writing books. Who knew what he was going to do? And then it's just all gone within a blink of eye, like you said.
Yeah.
And to see your heroes fall reminds you of just how fragile we are as people. That it can happen to any one of us, and it just makes you want to, you know, love those around you, embrace those around you, cherish every moment that you have, because it's super important to always keep that sense of mind, sense of frame, that to not be angry about the little things. You know, when you arguing over a movie like Marvel and DC stuff, it's small stuff that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. What does matter is the people, the relationships you have, and you know, you always got to cherish that and hold on to it. So you see, like like I said with Kobe, same thing with Chadwick. Chadwick only made like 10 or 11 movies, and he's already left a legacy with that. Now imagine what he was going to do after. Once he's done with Marvel, who knew all the directors that would have loved to work with him?
Absolutely.
Like people.
100%. 100%. Sorry to interrupt, man, but
No, go ahead.
It's again, it hit the nail on the head. It's his career was just getting started. Now, what he left is again going to be determined as legacy status. I always have an issue, you get me, because it happens a lot. It's been happening more, and it's been more with rappers, right? Where you know a certain rapper dies, and it sucks because you know you don't wish death on anybody, and a lot of these rappers die from overdosing or getting shot or you know what have you. And then all of a sudden it's like legend status, legends. Oh my God, this guy was a legend. And I've always been one to like really say how it is. You get me? Where I was like, dude, he made one album. He wasn't a legend. I understand you being sad over the fact that this man passed away, which sucks. I'm like, but you can't call he wasn't legend status. I've seen some people say that about Chadwick. I've seen the respect is given, but they're like, yeah, he wasn't legend status. Dude, every film that the guy showed up, even if the movie's not that great, he gave 120%. You get me? And again, it's something that I've been realizing. I realized more this week because I really dove into these films. Even Draft Day that I've seen twice, right? Which we'll talk about. But I've seen Draft Day twice, and I completely forgot that he was Vontae Mack because he wasn't Chadwick, you know? And I saw this movie be Vontae Mack no matter what, absolutely. But again, it goes back to that where I was like, you know, and it's crazy because I remember seeing a review from I think it was, I don't know if it was Jeremy Johns or the Schmoes or somebody for Get On Up, and they didn't say, oh, Chadwick Boseman. They're like, oh, he did. The guy that played James Brown did a really good job. You know, like the guy named that did James Brown. He wasn't Mr. Boseman yet. You get me? Yeah. So you know, it's crazy. But where I'm going with all this, it's when he passed just about a week ago today. Immediately you think, you know, like, are they going to call him a legend, or, you know, what's going on? And absolutely, like, just for the moment that he was that the small filmography that he has, he nailed every single part. And again, we'll get to Draft Day because I know that movie, it's some people love it, some people, I know Kyle, I already know how you feel about it. I know you enjoy it, I know, but we'll get to it. But again, you know what? Just cut me off right now, because I have to talk about his performance in that movie. But
like you were saying too, like people throw out that term, legends and masterpiece. It gets another one that gets thrown out a lot. Genius is another one that gets thrown out a lot. People are saying that a lot with Christopher Nolan right now, which one day we'll get to. But you know, Anthony, there's something I wanted to ask you about. You said you got to interview him just recently. What was it like being in the room with him? You're someone here that, you know, got to meet him, lock eyes with him and meet him. What was that experience like getting to be with him?
I mean, that's what I kind of wanted to touch on before we started jumping into the movie conversation. But yeah, you know, like all three of us, we've had the opportunity to interview some people that otherwise outside of our jobs we would have never meeting or talking to for 5 minutes, let alone a minute. Mm-hmm. So when the opportunity came up to interview him, I almost couldn't believe it. It was like, this is insane. Like, it's Black Panther.
It's Black Panther, yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I'm like, this is insane. Like, it's a different tier. And then I remember it was such an odd junket in general, because usually we'll see the movie a week before, and it was for his movie 21 Bridges. And we got to see the movie on a Thursday, and the interview was on a Friday, and the interview fell on the same day the movie came out. So it was very weird. That almost never happened. And it was very few number of journalists that were there. And we show up and everything. And with most of my interviews, I like to come up with a game to play with, you know, the actor, because I think it would be, you know, fun. It would be more engaging. And everything that I'm hearing from other reporters who are coming out when in front of me, they're telling me the same thing. Like, no, he's answering all the questions. He's doing everything well, but he seems very low energy.
Very what?
Yeah, very low energy. And
okay.
And all of us looked at him. We thought, like, oh, it must be the tour, because he was literally going from city to city to city. And right before he got to Miami, which was his last stop, he was on First Take, like just a few days ago. So that's how much different circuits that he was going to. So in my mind, you know, I'm thinking, like, oh, this ruins the game. Like, he's not going to want to play a game, especially if it's like the last day the movie already came out. This promotional thing isn't going to really do much. And I show up and I'm asking him a few questions here or there, and everything's going well. And then I come up with the game, and I ask him if he'd be up to reading some iconic lines from like 90s movies. And he just lit up. Like the dude just lit up, and for him, you know, I know it's not a big deal. Yeah, I mean, it's not like he's been interviewed a million times. But for me, that was like a big moment for me in my career. It was like, oh my God, like I got to get a great reaction at Chadwick, and he turned into a kid like for like 2 minutes. Like he's talking, he made the Darth Vader voice, the James Bond voice. He's doing all these things that he was such a Star Wars fan because he's like, no, I can't use that voice. I have to use another one. And you know, it was a great moment to have with him, and then to now see everything in retrospect, where it was, you know, the low energy wasn't just because he was going from spot to spot; it was because he was dealing with what he was dealing with.
Fighting cancer, man.
Exactly, and it's for this man to still be doing a promotional tour on a day when and the thing was, even at the screening the day before, he still showed up to go ahead and surprise the fans. Like that's something that, like, where do you find the energy to do that stuff? And even looking back at the interview, I remember the last question that I asked him was like, because he served as not just an actor but a producer on 21 Bridges, and I'd asked him, do you ever see yourself as a director? And he actually had a directorial project set up that he was going to do. He said like, oh, it's in the works, that it's coming soon. So this was the guy that even in the face of like dealing with like the diagnosis of cancer, which for many I think would be like a dead end, like this is
the face of death. Yeah, absolutely.
And then all of a sudden you're still planning for your future. You're still planning for where you're going to do a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. Is something that I think is, again, it's in many ways sad, but in other ways very inspirational as well.
And that's something else I wanted to kind of touch on too, was how he told nobody besides his closest people, not a single person. That if you look down the line, Spike Lee didn't know, Jordan Peele didn't know, Kevin Feige didn't know, Ryan Coogler didn't know. All these people that were so close to him had no idea he was even fighting cancer. And it's crazy to think about how his career might have been different had everybody known that he had cancer. Like if that was, that news broke in 2016, Black Panther actor Chadwick Boseman is diagnosed with cancer. He probably doesn't get roles like I don't know, Marshall, or he doesn't get something like Gods of Egypt, 21 Bridges. A lot of places are probably really hesitant to work with him because you just don't know it. You're checking up on him every day. Are you okay? Can we, can we make sure that you're all right? Are you sure you want to come into set today? All these accommodations that had to be made for him. And I think he didn't want to put people through that. He was always thinking of other people before himself. And that's what's really inspiring to him. We should get into these movies though. I think our natural starting place should be Draft Day, because that movie has come up a couple of times already. I just rewatched this last night. I just finished a fantasy football draft before coming on here. Draft Day, Jader, you go first, man. What is it about this film that is so infectious?
It's so entertaining, man. It's just an entertaining bullshit film. that would never happen watching this movie, man. But you know what? It's the thing that I wanted to say that I was holding back on is, spoiler alert, because we're gonna have to spoil these films to get into like what the conversations that we're talking about. So basically, Draft Day is about the Kevin Costner running or managing the Cleveland Browns. And, it's draft day. It's a stressful day. Who are they going to pick up? They have all these players calling them. They have, your proteges and, and he has no idea what he's going to do. He has a lot of stress because his father's the one that ran the team for a long time. And his father passed away a week before the draft day. So he's dealing with his father's death and trying to manage a team and, getting out of his father's shadow and what have you. That's pretty much the gist of the film. So, and whatever the movie happens is, and then that Chadwick Boseman calls him. He's a linebacker, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yep, linebacker.
He's a linebacker in the film. But for me, going through the loopholes and everything that he's doing and the trades, and I'm going to give you 3 first-round picks, which is absurd what he did for a fucking quarterback. I don't know, man. Like that movie, it stresses me, but it's so entertaining. It's just a lot of fun to watch. But the pivotal moment in the scene is who he decides to go with. Which, if you want to go back with Tim's comment, you can. Throughout the whole film, you're thinking that he's gonna go with this quarterback, the Tom Brady, if you will, of the draft. That this is a sure thing, and he gave up his first round picks for this guy, and he ends up going with Vontae Mack no matter what, which is the character that Chadwick Boseman plays in the film. One of my favorite scenes in this film is that he went with Vontae Mack. I love the when obviously it's draft day and Twitter, the Twitter fingers are fast, everything that's happening, where Chadwick Boseman actually calls him and he's like, I'm ready to play. If you don't pick me on because originally he had the 7th round pick, and he goes, if you don't pick me in the 7th round, I'm gonna fall down and I'm gonna get less money that I know I deserve more money, and I know I'm a caliber player for the top round picks. You can't have and he's kind of like pressuring Kevin Costner's character. But my favorite part is where you're thinking obviously that he's going with with the all-star QB. He automatically once the world knows that he did the trade with the Seattle Seahawks, and he doesn't have the and he's not going 7th round, he's going 1st round pick. Chadwick Boseman's character, Vontae Mack, all of a sudden, with the Twitter fingers, like, oh, you made a mistake, this and that and that. I like that phone call he gives him when he's like, don't do that. No matter what team you play for, no one wants you to know that, because things don't go your way. You act a certain way, you act like a baby, this and that and that. Like, love that scene. But the scene where the Cleveland Browns are up on the clock, and he's not in the war room or what have you, and he doesn't pick that all-star QB, and he picks Vontae Mack. Chadwick Boseman's face when he doesn't know that that's it. When he doesn't know that he's getting picked, that he got picked, that he was going the first pick, 1st round, right? And his face, the family, and he's just like shocked. Beautiful. That is honestly what I would feel, what I feel like any NFL. He captured it so perfectly. And it's no words. It's all emotion, all face emotions. There's no dialogue in that scene. And he just fucking crushes that shit. And that's why I love this goddamn movie so much, man.
He felt so much like a football player. At the last scene, before he gets drafted, last scene you see him go up to his agent. His agent's like, I just got off the phone with the Broncos. They're thinking about you at 15, and then he's like, 15? They're like, it could be.
It's a maybe. It could be later.
Yeah, it could be a very long night for you. And he's just every scene they show with Chadwick, he's always with his kids too. And it shows that
which are his nephews. It's his nephews because his sister had just died from cancer, if I'm not mistaken, in the film, right?
Yeah.
Fucking A, bro.
Crazy, yeah. He hadn't had it at that point. It's ridiculous, the movie itself, because not just the NFL stuff, but also like no one went to Bo Callahan. None of his teammates went to his birthday
party. Yeah,
it's great movie entertainment, but it's like all the sports fans watching this are like, what the hell? The NFL finally allows them to use their logos in a movie, and this is what we get. It's still good though. It's funny. Anthony, man, have you seen this movie?
I have, and it's the same thing. I had fun with it. I'm not a big football fan, but I had fun with it. And even not being a big football fan, I could tell those trades are impossible. Like
impossible, bro. Never gonna happen.
Like even
never gonna happen.
I'm looking at it. I'm like, I can't even do that on fantasy. Like it's just impossible. But looking at that movie, it was a lot of fun. But one thing, also, like, and you notice this throughout Chadwick's career, he was able to transform his body into whatever his character needed. Like if you remember in Draft Day, his body looks very different.
Massive, yeah.
He's built. The man was built like a tank for that movie, and also his attitude. Like he like when you look at all his other roles, he was kind of a more kind of chill dude. Vontae in this movie was very kind of outward. He was like if Vontae was like a real NFL player, I think he would be the one that would give you like all those little talking points, those little quotes,
Well, again, at the end of the film, if you see it, like they have fuck, bro. Sorry, Smallville fans. Who's the quarterback for the Browns in the movie? He's a small Tom.
Drew.
Huh?
Brian Drew. I just watched this last night. Brian
No. Brian Drew's the name of the character, but who is Tom Wellington, right?
Tom Wellington, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
Tom Wellington. Tom Wellington's in it. And in that middle, like in the end of the film, before the Browns play their first game, it's Vontae Mack in the middle. It is not Drew. It is not the guy from the Dolphins. He was like the seventh. Who was the 7th round pick in the movie? You saw it yesterday from the Dolphins, bro. He played for the Dolphins.
The 7th round pick who played for the Dolphins.
Yeah, in the movie, dude.
Arian Foster.
Arian Foster.
You played. Hey, that's another thing too that doesn't hold up about this movie. The coach of the Browns is like, I want to pick a running back at 7. No one picks running backs in the first round anymore. That's unheard of in the NFL. You can replace
unless you're playing fantasy.
We're working on one more guest right now. I don't know if you want to handle that real quick, Jader.
I'm doing. You're good. You're good. Don't worry about it.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So, yeah, Draft Day, man. I think this is a movie that people really need to give a chance. It's so funny how Chadwick Boseman tells him, like, that quarterback you're thinking of taking, watch all the plays after.
Yeah. After I sack him. After I sack him, watch the plays.
No NFL analyst has watched the play after he got sacked. Not a single one has watched it. They're just looking at websites of him partying with all these girls that he likes. Come on.
You should fire everybody from the Browns if you don't know that much, bro.
Exactly. Okay, guys, we are joined by another guest in just a moment here. And we'll be able to we'll get back to Draft Day, or not draft. This is it for Draft Day. We're done with Draft Day now. But yeah, everybody, today we are also joined by Miss Jeannine the Machine, Jeannine Brice.
My girls in the house.
Hello. Thank you for having me back.
It's so good to see you, Jeannine. So Jeannine, we kind of went through it with us already, but we could talk us through. You heard Chadwick Boseman dies on that Friday. We were talking about it. It was the same time as that Kevin Smith Jericho match was going on. It kind of sucked the energy out of everything. How did this news hit you?
It was really hard. It was the day before my birthday, and I was like having so much fun with that match. And then Kevin texted me. He was like, search Chadwick Boseman on Google, and I typed it in and I saw it, and I was just, so shocked, heartbroken, like immediately. And then in the back of my mind, I was remembering things I had seen, like in the past few months, people were posting pictures of him looking really thin, and his camp never confirmed anything, so I had just kind of wrote it off as, oh, maybe he's just losing weight for a role. That's what it has to be, because if he was sick, they would be saying something. So my mind just went back to that, and yeah, it was really hard because he was a huge inspiration for me. Even just, I talk about it a lot. I saw Black Panther for the first time the day before my first Schmodown match, and I was so nervous and so, scared about how I was going to be perceived as a Black woman in this, white dominated thing. And after seeing Black Panther, I was filled with so much pride and confidence.
You were like,
yeah, exactly. To go out there and do my first match. So yeah, he was a huge inspiration to me, and it was just a gut punch seeing that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that inspiration. Like, what did Chadwick Boseman mean to you? Because we all have our heroes, our actors that are your heroes, our sports figures, politicians, whatever it may be. A lot of people have their heroes, and I know Chadwick meant a lot to a lot of people. So, what did he mean for you?
Well, even just seeing him, in interviews and things, he was always, talking about representation, how important that was, and, wanting to perceive, really intelligent, thoughtful Black characters and portray us in such a beautiful, positive light. And that was something that he, cognizantly thought of, something that he was always fully aware of, like his power as a Black actor. So I appreciated that so much about him, that was something he always took on when he would take on a role. And just in all his roles, he is so magnetic, and you can't take your eyes off him no matter what's happening. Representation is a huge thing for me in movies. So to see him, see that as an important thing was super special, was huge for me. So
So we've already talked about Draft Day, Jeannine. Do you have any thoughts on Draft Day before we move on to another movie?
Not too many thoughts. I didn't get to Draft Day, so.
One thing I did want to point out real quick was he gave a speech. I'll never forget when Black Panther won the SAG Award for Best Acting Ensemble, and they immediately all of them gave Chadwick the mic. You speak. We want to hear what you have to say. And he talked about being to be young, to be talented, and to be Black. Just that's what it means. How important that is to him, and how important it is to inspire all the young kids out there who want to be actors, who want to be not just actors, actually, who want to just be something. All the young African American kids out there who want to have a life, a career that he's a symbol of someone that they can work up to one day. I remember hearing that speech and like, this is incredible. This man gets it. He understands. And you can see it in the roles he chose. He was very strategic with everything he chose. And I think the first one, now that you're here, Jeannine, that we should talk about, let's just stick with sports. I think we should talk about 42, the Jackie Robinson story. 42 is a movie about Jackie Robinson, and I think it holds my favorite moment of one of my favorite moments of Chadwick Boseman's career. And it's after Alan Tudyk is just going off on him while he's at bat, just being
talk
super
about putting
racist.
The dick in Tudyk.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's so bad. It's one of the, I'm sure Alan probably felt so bad after having to record those takes, because it's one of the most disgusting shows I've ever seen of a racist character on screen.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Chadwick Jackie goes into the goes down in the hallway, takes a bat and just crushes it and screams to the top of his lungs, just being so frustrated about everything. And Harrison Ford comes up to him and all that. But that display of emotion is one of the best acting moments I've seen from Chadwick and throughout his entire filmography. So that really stands out to me. Anthony, I'm gonna throw it to you, man. 42. What kind of thoughts you have on Chadwick in this movie?
I mean, 42 was actually the first time, well, maybe not the first time I saw him in a movie, but it was the first time where I'm like, they're going to put him in a lead movie. Because at the time, he hadn't really done anything big. And, for me, baseball's always been like my sport. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be big. They're going to give him the role of Jackie Robinson. And here he shows up and, he's, again, like Jeannine said, like you can't take your eyes off of him. Mm-hmm. And in that role, he shows you glimpses of, like you talked about, when he's breaking the bat apart and he's showing that anger. And he's constantly like bubbling, and he's bubbling. And he can't top off, right? Because the moment he does, they're going to kick him out of the league. And he ruins it for all other African-American players to ever get to Major League Baseball. So he has to like constantly bite his tongue, keep it to himself. And then in other moments, you see the tenderness with his wife. You see the kind of kindness that person had. And then, that back and forth was, again, the movie isn't perfect by no means. There's some things that they kind of, avoided talking about and showing, because I think, again, you're talking about racism at the height at that point. But in general, I do remember that performance being the one where I went, okay, this is a guy that I don't know if he'll ever be like a lead. I remember saying that I don't know if he'll ever get like another big lead part, but I think now this is a role that's going to set him up where he's going to be a consistent face that you see in movies. Because he was having, scenes with Harrison Ford, Harrison Ford, and he was holding his own with Harrison Ford. And even with Harrison Ford's like weird accent in that movie, he was holding his own and doing just a great job. So I just remember watching that movie and thinking again, like, this movie could have gone horrible. Like, big role, big iconic role, your first big one. It could have gone terrible, but he did amazing. So, but yeah, that was my thought when I watched 42.
I mean, Jader, you're a big baseball fan, man. Jackie Robinson is one of these big figures and history altogether. So you see this movie, what stands out to you?
Kind of what Anthony said. This was the second film I saw him in. I think Draft Day was first, and then I saw this. Yeah. And the same thing. I I didn't think that. I actually thought when I finished the film, I didn't even think, oh, I'm like, because I didn't remember him from Draft Day. I'm not gonna lie to you. I thought this was the first film that I saw him in. And then when I saw the movie, him being able, even stealing some scenes from Harrison Ford, because there's no denying that Harrison Ford was fantastic in this movie. But kind of the same thing. I absolutely love this film. I felt like they kind of like, it's not a Disney film, but they did this Disney-fied or kind of turned it into a PG film because it should have been a little bit grittier. Because those times were terrible for him. I felt like they didn't really dive in. Besides that scene with the Phillies, they didn't really dive into what really happened. You get me? So I felt like like even the scene with Alan Tudyk when I forget the player's name, when he goes up to him and he goes, "You're a piece of shit redneck." Like that was really PG-13 compared to like what probably happened. Because I guarantee you they all got fed up with everything this piece of shit was saying, and they probably went off on him. Like I guarantee you it wasn't a piece of shit that they said. It was, for lack of a better word. So I absolutely love that movie, to be completely honest with you. I love when Harrison Ford tells him, like, "Can you handle it? You're gonna pave the way. You're gonna change history." But he's like, don't let them win. He goes, channel whatever you gotta. He goes, you beat them on the field. I love that, and I love when he's like asking him, like, "Can you handle it?" And he goes, "You give me a uniform, you give me a number in my back, I'll give you the guts." One of my favorite lines from that movie. But I mean, again, they try to. I know that they went the PG route with this film. Again, not a perfect film. One of my favorite performances from him, and actually one of my favorite Chadwick Boseman movies, to be completely honest with you. I just kind of got the same thing when I saw it. I'm like, oh, this was great, but it could have been maybe a little bit better. I wanted more baseball in it, I know it has to deal with his life and whatnot, but I just wanted a little tiny bit more baseball, especially at the end. The ending for me, like that game, I felt like the ending was he steps up to the plate, he hits the ball, he goes around, and boom, the movie ends. And I'm like, dude, we didn't get a game at the end. Like, you usually get those. So, but yeah, like again, overall, love this performance, love this movie, great lines. He kept up with Harrison Ford, and that's when I was like, this guy's gonna be a star. It wasn't like, oh, maybe he'll get another. I was like, this guy's gonna be a star, because I honestly thought he crushed this role, to be honest with you. I just wanted more of the film. He wasn't the issue. It was more the writing and the direction towards it. But other than that, I absolutely love this movie. Jeannine, what's up? Talk to me, girl.
So yeah, I'm not a huge sports person. So it's a kind of a testament for me to a sports movie if it can really get me like excited and like into it. And this movie definitely did that. This was the first time I saw Chadwick Boseman in anything. And I watched it actually today again. I hadn't seen it like since theaters. So this was my first time watching it in a really long time. And I found myself making like all these parallels to his struggle with cancer. Like he couldn't say anything. He was kind of basically struggling in silence. And had he not, he maybe, if he had said something, maybe, movies wouldn't want to insure him and he wouldn't be able to have done all the roles that he did up to that point. So I just found myself kind of making these, interesting comparisons to his kind of struggles, his private secret struggle with cancer to, his private, Jackie Robinson's private struggle with, not being able to fight back with all these people. One of the scenes I really loved was him, talking to his wife after the whole, thing with the, Alan Tudyk, and he's saying, I don't need them to like me. I didn't come here to make friends. I don't need them to respect me. I have enough respect for myself. But I don't want them to beat me. And his wife says they won't beat you, and he's like, they almost did today. Yeah. And I just love that whole kind of exchange that he doesn't need a lot of things, and he knows what he has to do, but he almost messed everything up. He almost went against what he's fighting so hard to do. So I really loved that scene. But yeah, it was a really great movie. Because like I'm not that into sports. So for me, I was fine with the amount of baseball because I don't really get baseball.
No. We needed more baseball in there. We definitely needed more baseball in there. And mind you, baseball, I think is my least favorite sport. I like soccer more than I like baseball. I used to be a bigger baseball fan back then, but there's always that feel like when you're watching these films where you have that final game, and especially everything that he's going through to shut the crowd up. Like I just wanted that.
Yeah, that's what I love about sports movies. Because like I said, it's not my huge thing, but sports movies, I really enjoy them when there's that big kind of moment. And it just felt like it kind of ended, and I was expecting, wait, this is how it ends? Like it wasn't like this big final game thing, Yeah,
well, that's exactly it. But for me, even like I even thought when I was going to see this movie that it was going to be the story of his life, and it wasn't. It was the first season. That's what it was. But jumping back to what you said, Kyle, like I absolutely, my favorite scene was that as well. When he grabs the bat and he just goes in there, because I remember watching this movie and wanting to like flip tables, and I'm like, dude, I'm with you, man. Like what the fuck, dude. And then there was something else I wanted to mention. You mentioning Tudyk, like after, like, let's say they yell cut, like him saying, bro, I'm so sorry, man, like this is not me. It's so hard. Like I can only imagine actors like doing this, because it's disgusting, the things that you have to say, like, and especially in a film like, I can only imagine like Michael Fassbender after 12 Years a Slave. Like, how do you do, it's crazy to me. So, props to him. I hated his character. I've never hated Alan Tudyk, like in anything. And I remember seeing him in this movie and just being like, you're fucking disgusting, dude. Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
But you know what? He did his job, man. He did his job. He did a great job. And again, it had a couple corny lines in there, like here and there. Like it's again not a perfect film by any means, but I feel like the movie overall did what it needs to do. I felt like they were obviously trying to engage all audiences with this movie, because you can only go so far in teaching. This is a movie that eventually I'm going to show my son pretty soon, to be honest with you. But if you get more into the like extreme racial things of the film, you're not going to be able to show kids that. And I feel like this is a movie that it's a family film overall. So that's probably why they went. I understand the route that they went, but I guess we're I don't want to say extremists or anything like that, but we always want just a little bit more edge to films. At least I do. And that was honestly my only issue with this movie, that I'm like, it kind of like made it like, they softened it up a little bit.
Yeah, and movies like this tend to movies that deal with race tend to have that whole kind of aspect where like one big event like solved all of racism, and you get that sense a little bit. So that's one thing that that happens in movies like this that is a little disappointing, but overall I really enjoyed it as well.
Yeah.
I'm always gonna remember this film as his coming out party, and it's from that moment at the beginning when they get off the bus as a team, and he's like,
bathroom
I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'm going to go to the bathroom. Guys, I can't come in there. And he's like, take the pump out of the gas. We want to take our business elsewhere. And the guy's like, all right, fine, you can use it. Like, that guy's a star. That guy's going to mean something. I'm ready to follow him. But from one historical figure to another, let's jump into Marshall. Before we get into another, let's do Marshall real quick, because I kind of have some thoughts on this. I think this movie is more about the performance than the movie. When we talk about Chadwick, because this is not a Thurgood Marshall movie, in my opinion. This is a courtroom drama with some good performances. And it kind of sucks because he did portray Thurgood Marshall, and he's excellent in this movie. But at the same time, when I walk away with it, I don't feel like I know anything more about Thurgood Marshall than I knew going into it, which is my hesitation with it. But his performance itself, he is that powerful force that has the gravitas, the guy who you want to follow whatever he says. You want to listen to him no matter what it is. So I like the movie on the surface. As just when you tell me that this is a Thurgood Marshall movie, I don't agree with that. Jeannine, I want to get your thoughts on this though. What do you feel about Marshall?
So I watched it for the first time the other night, and
I don't feel that bad.
No.
I saw it like on Saturday or Monday for the first time.
Yeah. So I mean, it was kind of a surprise because like just I always thought, oh, this is a Thurgood Marshall, biopic, and then I went into it and it was this whole kind of about this specific court case that he tried. So like in that aspect, I thought I liked the story as a courtroom drama on its own, you know, kind of right. But it was, like you said, it wasn't what I was expecting. So what it was, I liked that kind of story. Like I was really kind of surprised, like, okay. And I got into it and I really liked, you know, his whole dynamic with Josh Gad. That was like, you know, they had some really funny moments and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't feel like I learned more about Thurgood Marshall, which was a little bit of a disappointment for how like I thought the movie, you know, was kind of marketed and stuff like that. But yeah, I liked the story. His performance again was amazing. I loved his chemistry with Josh Gad. But yeah, I would have loved to kind of learn more about, you know, Thurgood Marshall.
Yeah. I mean, Anthony, do you have any strong opinions on Marshall?
Terrible, because like, you know, during this whole week and everything, that was the one film that I think most people were talking about was Marshall. And the one thing that they always said, and it's true for me, it went under the radar because I think it was right around the same time that he got cast into Black Panther. Black Panther already came out, so everybody was talking about Black Panther. Nobody was talking about Marshall. So I didn't, honestly, this is a movie that I haven't seen yet. But the one thing that at least I've noticed, a lot of people were talking about the chemistry that he had with Josh Gad, which surprises me because I think Josh Gad is an acquired taste, and Chadwick, again, he comes off as a very kind of chill, laid back guy, and you know Josh Gad has this, you know, very big personality. So I'm like, how do these two kind of gel together? But apparently, they have like an amazing on-screen chemistry, which for me, a person who hasn't seen it, makes it very intriguing to watch because I want to see that dichotomy. And I think I keep forgetting the actor's name, but he stars in the show Us.
Sterling K. Brown.
Oh, Sterling K.
Sterling K. Brown. Yeah.
I don't know how big of a role he is, but if he has scenes with Chadwick, I want to see that.
Oh, yeah, no, it's good.
He did. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, I got to see that. But yeah, that's definitely a movie we got to check out.
And this is like the best I think this is the most I've liked Josh Gad in a movie. I think he is definitely more subdued. He's not kind of being
a quiet taste,
Olaf crazy.
You didn't like The Wedding Ringer?
It was a little much.
So,
Jader, go ahead, man.
I honestly thought this was the first time I saw this movie. Again, it's another one. It came out right before Black Panther. Okay. It was pre Brown versus the Board of Education, which is what we learned in history books about Thurgood and all that. So I was really intrigued to see if this was going to lead to him being this, you know, masterful lawyer and whatnot. But if you kind of think about it, if you go back and you watch this movie, he's kind of like the solo lawyer for the NCAA, let me see, NAACP. My bad, bro. Sports movie. But and he's kind of like this nomad superhero for injustice, which we eventually see him become a superhero. I thought it was kind of bizarre, this case where he cannot speak in the courtroom because of his race, which I found completely fucked up. But at the same time, I felt like young Thurgood was kind of like the Pat Riley to D Wade's in 06, where he was telling you, again, I'm going to throw you with these sports references, but I feel like he was just there with giving Josh Gad, which has never taken a case like that. He does like not civil cases, insurances and all that, exactly, versus civil cases. And he's like, dude, I've never done anything like this. And then the judge tells him, hey, you can't speak in the courtroom. So he's like kind of like whispering, like, this is what you need to say.
Yeah.
So same thing. So my main thing is exactly what Kyle said. It's not it's not a Thurgood Marshall film. I wanted more out of it, especially what we learned in history books, what this man evidently becomes. I know and it wasn't that much of an earlier case. I think like 2 cases later was Brown versus, it was like right there. But I feel like even the supporting cast, right? Like you have your Kate Hudsons and your Dan Stevensons and James Cromwell's in it, right? Yeah. And you can tell that they're trying to do everything to like make Joseph Spell, which is Sterling K. Brown's character, Fry. Like they're trying to throw all these things like just wrenches throughout. And I just love how unfazed and how like suave Chadwick was as Thurgood. And you know, I love that about this movie. I think I enjoyed it more than you guys, to be completely honest with you, because I felt like I just slept on this film and I was like, man, why did I do this? You know? And when I was watching that, I'm like, man, I'm really digging it. But I agree with you 100%. When the movie ended, I'm like, all right, so this is not a Thurgood Marshall film. It should have been called, you know, The Case of Joseph Spell, you know, and it happens to be Marshall, you know, and they even have like Zora Neale Hurston, like, you know, come in for a cameo, and it's Chili from fucking TLC, and you know, and then you have Joseph Smoulier. he's who does he play again? He's the poet, man. God damn it, bro. He's the poet. I know this. Come on. This is like Schmodown shit right now. Langston Hughes. He plays Langston Hughes, you know. But, you know, what's bizarre is I wanted to see more. You know what I would have loved to see? Like, in between court case scenes or whatever, have, like, kind of like a background on when he was studying law in school, because I forget who his professor was, but he was like a big time like you know a person that would, like, his classes were intense and all that. And I Googled after the film, because I just started reading more about, you know, it happens. There's films that you're gonna watch and you're like, oh, I gotta Google to see what's up. But I read that Thurgood's dad and his dad will take him to court like some nights, like after, you know, whatever, they would go to courtrooms, right? They would sit in the back and then they would reenact, you know, cases. And that's how he got his practice in. Yeah, it's very interesting stuff, man. I would have loved to see a scene like that as a young Thurgood with his young brother, and they would reenact it at home and kind of go on the back and forth. And their dad's like, oh, well, why are you doing this argument? If this turned out this way, like things like that, which is bizarre to me. Yeah. You know, I would have loved to see a little bit more background on his life growing up versus what we got. I think Chadwick kills this performance. I felt like he was so unfazed throughout the whole film, like nothing. Even when those
guys, like, you know, at the bar,
they go to the bar, they go to jump him, and he just fucking Black Panther the shit out of him. Bro, I don't know. It was so great, and I love the ending when they're giving the final statement. How he's like, "Hey, you know, I can't be there in the courtrooom with you, but I got you. This is what you're gonna say." That whole scene, I love. I really enjoyed this film. I don't think it's that bad, but again, I think exactly what Kyle said. When it ended, I was like, man, that was a great courtroom drama.
Right? Yeah. I don't know where it would be. Where would it be? Would it be in courtroom drama slice, or would it be in biopic slice? Because this was not really a biopic. But it surprised me. It surprised me, like, how much I enjoyed it. Because I wasn't expecting that plot. I was not expecting that plot. I was expecting a straight up biopic. And when I got what I got, I was disappointed that I didn't get more about him, but I was really into the story. I really liked it a lot as a courtroom drama.
He played him so well. He did such a phenomenal job where I'm like, wait, man, give me the sequel with, you know, Brown versus the Board of Education.
They set it up for a sequel at the end. The guy's like, I got another case for you. This kid needs a lawyer down in there. I'm like, okay, let's set it up. An adventure of Thurgood Marshall.
Yeah, Thurgood Marshall, cinematic universe.
That case was a bitch for him. Yeah, dude, I completely, like, oh my God, yeah, no.
I can't believe we spent this much time on Marshall.
It's a good film.
It is. Let's move on. Let's move on to a good biopic, and that's going to be Get On Up, a true biopic. So I think what I saw the most when people were honoring Chadwick Boseman after he passed was, you know, he was James Brown, he was Jackie Robinson, and he was Thurgood Marshall. I'm like, okay, yep, we all know every single person he played, but I feel like this is the movie that people are going to look back on 10 years from now and be like, that was his best performance he ever gave. Yeah, because what he does with James Brown in this is scary. I haven't seen a performance like this in a little while. What he does with the voice, which now thinking about going through cancer, that voice must have been like really tough and stressful to go through with all that. So I I think the movie's good. I don't think the movie's great because I just had a problem with the structure, the way it was set up. I hated the cut back, cut forth, and you went, guys would leave the band, and then you see them in the next scene, and they're together again because you go back in time and all these things. So it's nice to see the legacy of it, but the performance is what stands out the most here. James Brown's this larger than life figure that we never really got to experience too much, and to hear the music over and over again and see how well Chadwick commands the screen with the dances, and like the way that's him dancing and him singing. Oh my gosh, it's so cool. So,
a lot of splits.
Anthony, let's throw it to you this time, man. Get on up. Have you seen this film? And I mean, how do you feel about it when you look at Chadwick's career?
I mean, look, when it came to Get On Up, I know you guys said that 42 was kind of like the film that kind of made you guys say like, oh, he's a star. For me, it was this one. Like this thing was like what 20? I have it up on
2014. Yeah.
Way before he got cast into Black Panther and everything. And that was a role where I looked at it and I went, yeah, like this guy's it. This guy's a star.
If I'm not mistaken, this was the role after 42. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Very weird.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I remember when that news broke that he was going to play James Bond. I mean, not James Bond.
I wish.
I remember seeing that. I'm like, so wait, he's going to do two?
Yeah, right? Two biopics.
And I'm not going to lie, because I got to be honest. There was a part of me like, really, there was no other actor? You picked this guy? Like, he was saying, we're going to put all these characters.
Yeah.
But when I watched it, and side note, like, for example, my mom, she hates going to the movie theater, but she liked James Brown. And she's like, oh, they're doing a movie. And we watched the trailer, and there was this, I remember this scene with, I think, Viola Davis.
Yes.
And we're watching, I'm like, oh, that looks really good. We got to see that. And we go to the theater, and it's the music, and it's the dancing, and it's also the wardrobe. He was James Brown. He may not look exactly like him, but everything from the voice, from the dancing. And I like that this biopic, not like 42 that kind of sugar-coated some things or chose not to show some things. This one had no issue kind of showing that James Brown was not this perfect human being. He had a lot of faults to him, wasn't a perfect person, wasn't the best friend, was a womanizer. So again, I liked that part of it as well. And then when you hear about some of the background information in regards to how he was prepping for the role, you hear him like that he became friendly with the James Brown family, would go to their house and try on these outfits and actually see how they would fit, and he would try and dance in them and everything. And it just shows you like this guy would take every measure possible to make sure I'm going to pour everything into this role. And for me, it was this one. This was the one that kind of showed me like, yeah, this guy's a star. No question about it.
I mean, Jeannine, let's throw it to you then here right now. James Brown, did you have a connection to James Brown before going to this movie? And then if you didn't, like, what was your perspective after seeing Chadwick play this larger than life figure?
I didn't have a huge connection. Of course, I loved his music, and I, loved his inspiration on, like, he even says it in the movie, his inspiration on like a lot of people who came after, like, he was, I think he says something in the movie like, anything you hear now came from me, so I was very cognizant and appreciative of what, his contribution to music, but I wasn't like, a James Brown super fan or anything. And I didn't know much about him as a person. I saw, mug shots of him later in life getting like, having drug issues and things like that. But like you said, I appreciated that they weren't afraid to kind of sugarcoat things. I mean, it opens the movie showing him threatening a room full of people with a gun for taking a shit in his bathroom. So, that opening alone was not afraid to kind of show you who he was. You see him like hit his wife and things like that. But you also kind of see how much the music meant to him and his relationships with people and things like that. So I appreciated the realness of this movie, the realness of the story. With somebody as, kind of out there as James Brown, big personality, big performer, I think it could have gone a little caricature with the performance, but he, handled it so well. The voice, how he kind of moved, the dancing, everything. I think he did it all really well from all the things I had seen of James Brown up to that point. So yeah, like I'm happy he didn't kind of take that voice and things like that and make kind of a joke and try to do kind of this copycat caricature joke of James Brown. He did a really good job showing the man that we all kind of saw performing. So I really appreciated that about the movie. It did feel kind of, paint by numbers biopic, like you said, Kyle, with the editing and things like that and things that happen. It kind of jumps back and forth. I was getting a lot of, Ray vibes. I think even the kid who plays him is the kid that played the young Ray Charles. So I was getting kind of those vibes with the kind of back and forth kind of time jump things. So yeah, it did feel a bit, biopic paint by numbers at times, but I did really appreciate that they weren't afraid to shy away from who he was and didn't really sugarcoat things like that. And his portrayal was just, he had all that kind of pop and flair of James Brown, and I really appreciated that.
Hey, Jader, what do you feel about Get On Up? What's your opinion of this for Chadwick's career?
I mean, performance-wise, I didn't see Chadwick. I saw James Brown in the film. He embodied him like no other. The voice, the dancing, dude. I absolutely loved this performance. The film itself, same exact issues that you had, Kyle. I felt like the movie didn't tie up some loose ends. I felt like the whole jumping back and forth, like, they mentioned, hey, your mom just showed up. They cut that scene and we don't see her pop up for another 25 minutes. And I'm like, dude, what the hell's going on? And the same thing when, the band is all pissed off at him. They're like, we're out of here. And then like literally cut scene. He's on stage. The band's there with him. You're like, what? All right, so they made up. Like, what the hell's going on? Yeah. So I feel when you're talking about Chadwick, he was outstanding in this film. Pacing is what I have an issue with. And, it's like any other biopic. If we're going to talk about like history of James Brown, I don't know, everything. My family is very big. It's funny that Anthony mentioned his mom, like not really liking movies or anything. Like my mom loves movies, but she just doesn't go. She'll wait. She actually went to the theater and paid to go see this movie, along with my aunt. And mind you, my mom lived in Texas when this movie came out. So she went to a Texas theater. She went to go see this movie. My aunt here in Miami went to go see it. My uncles went to go see it. So this movie got, at least my family, they all pay for this shit, but they all just really love it, and they all came out telling me how amazing it was. I didn't see this movie until it hit video, to be honest with you. I didn't see it in the theater. But again, going back to his performance, it's ace performance. It's not my favorite, but I feel you can argue that it is his best. But again, the movie itself, I really do enjoy. I just have my issues with it. Yeah. Imagine that I saw Marshall, and I know Marshall is a less superior film, and I enjoyed Marshall more than I enjoyed this movie.
I'll go back before I watch Get On Up again.
Huh?
I'll go back to watch Marshall before I go to watch.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And again, and you might not feel this way, to be honest with you. I know you haven't seen Marshall, but you probably see Marshall. Like, what the hell are they talking about?
It's something like, I can't miss this movie now. Like,
no, I know. Go see Marshall. No, I mean, again, I really enjoyed it, man. I really enjoyed it because I didn't know what to expect from Marshall. But from Get On Up, again, the performances are great. Who plays his boy, man. He's from True. Oh, Nelson Ellis.
Nelson Ellis. Mm-hmm.
And which he passed away too.
As well. Yeah.
Yeah. Which it's crazy, but Dan Aykroyd was great in it as well. Like I feel like supporting Viola Davis, man. Like, let me tell you, it's very, very little roles where I don't like her, and I did not like her in this movie because I understood him completely. That scene where he sees her in the street with the other guy, and he's calling for him, and she completely ignores who he is. That shit's heartbreaking, man. Yeah. Lenny James, man, from Walking Dead. Yeah. He's a piece of shit in this movie too.
And Octavia Spencer, who's in every single movie.
Yeah. Well, this was Hank Taylor who did The Help, so that's why I think Octavia and Viola were popping up in there.
You know who I did love singing in the background? Jill Scott. That's my girl, man.
Yeah.
Seeing Jill Scott in the background, that was awesome. But yeah, man, I mean, Again, it's not a bad film whatsoever. It's more the editing, pacing. It's just the direction. I hated a lot of it, to be honest. Not hated. I don't want to say hate. I didn't hate it. But I had issues. With it where, again, they would mention an issue and you're like, all right, let's see how this resolves. And it's like 25 minutes later, like, hey, remember that thing we mentioned to you? We're gonna bring it back. I felt like I was watching Batman versus Superman all over again. But yeah.
Okay. Real quick before we get to the big one, does anyone have any strong opinions on Gods of Egypt or 21 Bridges? Just shout it out.
I haven't seen 21 or Gods of Egypt. Those are the two. I thought we were gonna jump in. I thought we were gonna jump into Five Bloods before we did the big ones.
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't seen Gods of Egypt, but somebody was telling me like he studied Egyptian hieroglyphs in school. So I think that's maybe in college, I guess. So I think that was maybe the only draw for him to do that movie was because he had actually studied Egyptian languages and stuff in school.
Dropping that knowledge, girl. Dropping that knowledge.
But I watched 21 Bridges for the first time last night, and it's actually like a pretty good, crime thriller. It is a bit, again, like a paint by numbers crime thriller. But
I know I'm gonna love it because Kyle said it's like a cheesy 90s action film, and I eat that shit up. So I can't wait to see it. I just couldn't get to it, to be honest with you. If
you like movies like that, you will enjoy it. He's got all the swag that he always has.
Love it.
You really like him. And I think you need to like him in this movie. He's a true protagonist. So I enjoyed it. I had fun with 21 Bridges, but it wasn't like,
I just want to point out to people that there's a scene in Gods of Egypt where Gerard Butler opens up Chadwick Boseman's head and takes a giant jewel out of it and holds it up to the sky. That's what you're getting with Gods of Egypt. So just throw it out there. It's not a good movie, but it's one of those so bad that you have to enjoy it kind of things like Batman and Robin. So give it a shot if you want to, just throw away some of your time. Let's get into the Five Bloods. I can't believe I forgot this, but it's because it's so recent. It's one of my favorite movies of the year so far. And, walking out of it, we've seen their Twitter reactions and all that. It's been talking about Delroy Lindo and Spike Lee. And it's about the four guys, really. But Chadwick's got this smaller role in it. And if we were doing our normal show, he would be like the Mahershala Ali Award winner right here. Because
absolutely.
He leaves such a massive impact on this entire film. There's that moment where this is my favorite moment in the film, when Martin Luther King Jr. dies. And they're all, man, like, fuck this war. What are we doing here? Kind of like the NBA players are like right now in the bubble when James Blake died. And they're like, what's the point of us being here right now? We're not doing any change. It's stupid. We need to go home and do our own change. That's how they felt at that moment. And Chadwick's character, what was his name?
Stormin' Norman.
Yes. He stands up to, he's like, no, we got to stay strong and all this. He's the leader they want, and they look at him as their MLK, like you said before, Jay. I remember you saying that's your favorite moment of the film.
That was one of my favorite moments, because
crazy, man.
As that's happening, like everybody's like, like giving up. They're in the middle of Vietnam War. They're in the middle of like mayhem, and he just stands his ground, and he's like, no, there's purpose. We have to keep fighting this and that and that. And it's funny, it's crazy because again, I do have my issues with this film as well. I already talked to you about them, but for me, it's
how dare you?
I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. My bad for having an opinion, Dick.
Not allowed to.
But that scene, because in the movie, it's basically them going back to Vietnam to get back this gold that they found, and they were the United States was going to give gold to the Vietnamese in exchange and all that. And then they were like, fuck that. They found it. They're like, we're keeping this shit for ourselves. They hid it somewhere. And it was like years later. Now, this is the thing. This is the only thing that I didn't pay attention to. How far into the future are we in this film? Is it like present day that they go back to the Vietnam War? That's the only thing I didn't pick up. They is, right? So it's like
Vietnam War. They go back to
no, to Vietnam, not Vietnam War. I'm sorry, to Vietnam. Okay. Is it 2020?
Yes.
Is it 20? It is 2020. Okay, so what the thing that kind of threw me off with this film was because there's back in the flashbacks.
They're younger selves, but they're playing.
They're playing, but they're them. Yeah. So it's like you have gray hair with Delroy Lindo, and you have Chadwick Boseman. Like, like I'm like, what the hell? So that's the only thing that I was like, what the hell's going on? But I get the decision. I get why he did the way that he did. But the way they would speak about him, and there was literally a line where they were like, he was our Malcolm and our Martin. And I was like, fuck yeah, that's exactly who he was to them, and I felt that shit, bro. I don't know. Like, there's certain moments in this movie where I was like, yeah, there's certain moments where I was like, yeah, I don't like where you were going with it. Have you seen it, Anthony, or no?
No, this is actually another one that I haven't seen. And the reason I didn't kind of want to watch any of the Chadwick Boseman movies because of the
right now.
It's just if I watched it, I'm not going to look at it and appreciate the movie as it is. I'm gonna look back on it and feel like with a heavy heart, like
yeah. Well, again, he's outstanding in this film. I don't know if, again, I feel like this movie will get some attention. And again, we haven't had a year with a bunch of movies coming out, so the Oscars are definitely going to be looking at this film. It is an Oscar baity film. He can probably get a nom for Best Supporting Actor. The argument, it could definitely be there. It all depends on what's going to be released now that we're getting movies and the theaters are slowly opening, so we'll see, because the movie came out June. It came out the same weekend as they released this and King of Staten Island, which are 2 great films. My only issue with this is, when you go into a movie, it's kind of like Thurgood, how you're expecting something and then you don't get what you get, and you still enjoy the film, but you're like, oh, but I thought it was going to go this way. And this is funny because my opinion of this movie changed literally like 2 days after I saw it. So I saw it and I was like, oh, it's okay, it's a good movie. And I'm like, I just didn't like the fact that, again, the premise of the film is basically this: it's they find gold, and they go on a mission they go on a mission. They find the gold that they need to find that was supposed to be for the Vietnamese. They all kind of make an agreement. They're like, no, fuck that, man. We're here. We're busting your ass. Nobody cares, gives a fuck about us. We're gonna keep this. We're gonna bury it. We're gonna come back and we're gonna do what we got to do. Some people, again, Chadwick said that he was gonna use it for the Black community, and like whatever he can do to help the Black community he was going to do. Some people were going to say they're going to keep it themselves. They were going to share whatever the worth was. They were going to split it between the 5, right? Years pass, this and that, and then it's them going back. Now, again, this is not a spoiler alert. I know you guys haven't seen this movie, but it's not really a spoiler. Chadwick is the one that doesn't make it, right? It's from the beginning of the movie. They tell you that he doesn't make it, and they're going back to find his body, his corpse, because they never recovered it, and to find the gold and do what you got to do. So this whole time I'm watching this film, which is a very long film, by the way.
Yeah.
It's like what, like it's 2.5 or 2:45. It's
something like that. Yeah. So I haven't finished it. So I've watched most of it, but I still have like the last maybe like 40 minutes to watch.
Yeah, exactly. So you think you're almost done, and then you pause it, and you're like 40 minutes left.
Yeah. I'm like, I gotta work. I'm sorry.
Exactly. So you saw most of it.
Yeah.
So my whole thing was that this whole time I'm thinking like this movie is gonna be a movie about a band of brothers that go back no matter what. But I felt like it wasn't that. It was actually the opposite. I felt like they were all there on this trip to get what they felt was theirs, and that was that. But then slowly thinking about it, I'm like, damn, like money can do that to you, so I kind of see like a realistic POV from that, where I'm like, not everything's gonna be happy-go-lucky, not everything's gonna be like, hey, like best friends forever. So I felt like slowly after I started really thinking about the movie afterwards, I'm like, man, actually it's a pretty dope movie, where it's not what you think, man. It's kind of bizarre, but the third act of this film is so strong. And again, I feel like everyone, I feel like the 5 Bloods, like Delroy Lindo, Clark Peters, which was in The Wire, which he's fantastic in this movie. The guy that plays Melvin, man, I've never seen him in anything else, but the guy that plays Melvin that's actually finding the gold, I don't know, he's fantastic in this.
These are all Spike Lee regulars. Like, these guys have been with him for his entire career and came back to be the stars of this movie, which I really, really appreciated. Yeah. Jeannine, you said you haven't finished this movie, though. What's your impression so far?
I am liking it. I am feeling that whole kind of like these are like I want to like these people, but they're kind of terrible at times.
They're assholes. Yeah.
Yes, right. Especially Delroy Lindo. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
but I
you
feel
have
like
no idea. You have no idea. You just wait. You're not done yet.
I feel like we got a lot from like the moments that we had with Chadwick. I feel like he was so good that his impact was felt, I think, with the moments that he had with them. So, and he was kind of the core that kept them together. And I think I'm hoping we get more moments of his impact from the past, like them kind of taking that into account when they're bickering and fighting and having all these issues, and they kind of go back to what him bringing them together. Because there was a great moment in the future when they're traveling and they get in this whole fight with a Vietnamese man and this whole thing, and then they put all their hands in like they did with Chadwick in the past, and that kind of calmed everything down, and they were reminded that they were brothers and this whole kind of situation. So I liked that, and I think they did a good job of portraying Chadwick's impact on them, so that when they had that scene of them bickering and fighting and then coming together, ultimately the way Chadwick brought them together was a really nice kind of callback to that. And I hope that there's more of that, because right now I'm like at a part where they're like really hateful and terrible.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It doesn't get a little spoiler. It doesn't get any better. And I love how Marvin Gaye was all over.
Oh yes. And like
all
just the acapella, no sound, just him singing, it was beautiful. Yeah.
No, I love that. I love that.
Dancing at the Apocalypse Now party at the beginning is great. I see that.
Got to give it up. I love that song.
Yes, me too.
It's like, yeah, dude, I love that song. So when they use it in the film, I'm like, perfect, dude. Perfect. All right, man. Let's get into it. This is
the film that defines his legacy. It really does. It's Black Panther. It was, we're gonna get into all the minutia of it. Jeannine, let's start with you here. Black Panther. What does this film mean to you, and Chadwick specifically as this character, T'Challa?
Like I had kind of mentioned with my whole kind of Schmodown journey, I was really nervous entering the Schmodown because it's mostly a bunch of white dudes in the actual Schmodown and in the fan base. So, I was coming in as a Black woman, a heel at that. So I was like, am I going to be accepted, or people just going to like write me off as this, angry Black woman stereotype? Am I going to be accepted? Are people going to care or see that I'm trying to represent diversity and something more in the Schmodown? Like I just had all these fears of being accepted for, being a Black person. So the day before my match, and even leading up to that, I was super inspired by the movie coming out. I was super excited because as a little kid, I was always looking for representation in movies. And this was a piece of representation in a mainstream way. There had been Black superheroes in the past, but not to this level, not in a big mainstream franchise that was going to be for something for everybody, not just for Black people, So I was already super excited for that. I do graphic design, so I had made so many Black Panther designs because I was just so hyped for this movie. So, my family went to my tea shop and bought like all my Black Panther designs. So we all wore my Black Panther shirts. We all went to the movies together, and we never do shit like that. We never go to the movies together as a family.
It was an event. It was definitely an event. Absolutely.
Never do that. So we're all wearing my Black Panther designs. The premiere, like the 5:00 day before that it came out, like kind of premiere thing. We went, the fan event, and we go to this movie. And it is just so beautiful, everything, how it looked. Chadwick just with the swagger and just all the Black excellence. And, it was just a beautiful movie. It was everything that I wanted. He was just strong and proud. And the fact that, your main character learned something. He is able to learn something from the villain. I feel like that is such a smart, beautiful thing. So his whole dynamic with Michael B. Jordan was great. And I just love that whole idea of him learning something from the villain, because you never really see that, I don't think, in such a, bold way. Just seeing him represent that character, all that representation in that movie, what it meant. I was just, all my fears that I had going into my match the very next day kind of melted away. I felt super proud to be Black. I felt super proud to represent something different in the Schmodown. And I wore one of my Black Panther designs for my very first match ever, just feeling so proud because of Chadwick and because of this movie. So it was a huge deal for me. Like, you have no idea. So
Anthony, I mean, you too, man. What does this film mean to you and the character that Chadwick plays, T'Challa?
I mean, for me, still Get On Up is his best performance, but this is the one that he's always going to be remembered for.
Yeah.
Like think about it. The man I think played Black Panther in total
4 times, I think.
four times, and think about it. Played the character 4 times, and now he's in the lexicon of entertainment. Like you're always going to remember that character. Like
no, forever. And let me tell you, this is gonna be a generational thing because my kids, everybody's gonna be like, "Oh man, what happened?" And you gotta, explain what happened. This is, he was amazing, this and that. Why wasn't even part 2? Which again, I know we're gonna dive into this, but it's gonna be this is legendary for him.
Exactly. So that fact that in just 4 films, like think about it. You had Hugh Jackman with Wolverine. It took him how many years for us to kind of say, like, yeah, Wolverine is 100% Hugh Jackman. Yeah. It took Chadwick like 1 movie.
Yo, I'm gonna get into it, but when I saw him in Civil War,
right?
I was like, well, wow, I'll get into it, but go ahead. I'm sorry to keep interrupting, man. I love all this shit. I love all this shit. I love Marvel, man. And we swore we were never gonna talk Marvel again on this show. But
it's gonna happen.
Yeah, dude. But we'll get into it, man. But go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt, man. I get hyped.
Right.
Get out of here.
I'm gonna mute myself. Go ahead.
I'm actually not that big of a Marvel fan. Like I'm not. So like I'm really not. I'm not. You can go ahead and react. Like for me, I'm not that big of a Marvel fan. So when I heard like this Black Panther thing and everybody's getting so hyped about it, I'm like, all right, whatever. and then because I didn't see it opening weekend or anything. I think I saw like the 3rd week because so many people were talking about it. I'm like, all right, you know what? Fine. I'm gonna go ahead and see it. And I hate that I was like this, but I'm like, I know this thing isn't gonna be as good as people are talking about. And the thing's going and going. I'm like, and slowly, like I have to like find myself. I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. Like it's actually it's not that bad. And it just keeps getting better and better and better. And the thing is, like, the movie itself has like some James Bond elements too, which is makes me so happy, especially like that casino scene.
Yes.
And then also, what got me, I think, The Weeknd made a song for him as well, so that hooked me. I think that's what, like, and that song popped up also in the casino, but I'm going off on a tangent. But his performance in it, again, the way he's able to kind of tote the line where he's not just like an all good guy, like he's not just like our hero. Like, oh, he's our hero. He does good. He's always good. Like there's layers to him where he finds out that his history isn't as clean cut as he thought it was. Mm-hmm. And I think that was really interesting that they were able to play up whether the villain, like Gianni said, like the villain has some reasoning to him. He's not just a villain to be a villain. Mm-hmm. And you can even feel like there's a brotherhood between T'Challa and Michael B. Jordan's character. So it's also a movie that, again, with Disney, because I have an issue with Disney sometimes. I was thinking about it, like, are they gonna take shortcuts here and Disney-fy this whole thing and have like these African people talking like in a British accent now? But like, no, they're actually there and they're talking, with their native accent, and it feels real. It's in a fantasy world. Like, I'm not saying Wakanda's real, but it felt grounded in a very odd way. It felt grounded.
And that was one of Chadwick's choices to, use that accent and not have a westernized accent. I loved that whole kind of, oh my gosh, Ryan Coogler's whole kind of message he wrote about Chadwick and talking about how much input he had in that movie. He was the one behind the whole jumping from the ship's line that Killmonger has at the end, like, and him not just wanting to be buried in Wakanda and him, wanting to be buried in the water. That was all Chadwick. He had so much input in this movie as well. And it was just so amazing to kind of see how much he cared, sitting in on other character auditions and, wrestling with Winston Duke. His audition turned into like a wrestling match. I read. I think that elevated this movie so much more, seeing that he had such a big hand in it. He wasn't just Black Panther. He was behind the scenes, putting in his ideas, and a lot of them were some of the best moments in the movie.
It was special. It really was special. Jader,
Jader, be nice.
My turn?
Yes.
I fucking love this movie. No, so I guess I'm mind blown that it took you this long to see this movie, but I get it. If you're not, I actually did that with Solo. I didn't want to see Solo because I am a Star Wars fan, and I'm like, that's not my Solo. I'm not watching this shit. I ended up watching the movie, and you know what?
It's
a
good.
lot of people hate that movie. I like Solo. I'm sorry. I really like that movie. I think it's great. We're not talking about Han Solo, but we are talking a Disney film, and that is Black Panther. I was very lucky to see Black Panther. I think I saw it 3 weeks early, right? So I saw. Were you there, Kyle, for that? For that?
I didn't get to see that
you
one.
didn't get to go.
You guys jipped me on the Last Jedi and on Black Panther.
No. This wasn't Center Sports Talk. This was GoFobo. I was just signed up, and I got the email, and I went in, and it was because I'm just saying that I saw this because I remember I said that I was watching the movie. And I remember everybody's like, how the fuck did you get tickets? And everybody started arguing with Steve. And Steve's like, dude, I haven't gotten tickets. I haven't given anybody screenings. But no, so we went early. But I remember when I was doing the Nobody show during this. So I remember giving them the tickets. And I think a bunch of us, not all of us, a bunch of us went. So imagine, I'm sitting down. I was hyped for the movie. I'm a Black Panther fan from the comics. And then obviously seeing 42, I'm like, man, he's a good actor. I feel like, and then we're going to go back just a couple years, just 2 years before that. Civil War came out, 4 years before, right? 16. So 16 to 18. So 2 years, exactly. So I, like everybody was waiting for Civil War, right? Everybody's hyped for this movie, except for, this guy, because apparently he hates Marvel. But we're waiting to see Marvel, right? And I mean, Civil War. And, what do they release right before Civil War comes out? Spider-Man's in the film. All attention goes to Spider-Man. Everybody's super hyped, me included, because that is my favorite Marvel character, right? So I remember going to see this movie. I'm waiting for that Spider-Man scene, that infamous scene that he's going to come out in. But I remember when they introduced T'Challa in this film, I was like, what the hell, dude? And then the chase scene where he's chasing Bucky. Holy shit. I'm watching this movie and I'm like, I don't give a fuck about Spider-Man right now. I'm all about fucking Black Panther going right now. And just every line, it's just so hard where he delivers it, where he's like, oh, you're going to keep your friend from me. He's like, oh, they can try a bunch of shit that he just says where you're like, I was mind blown. So you can imagine the hype from seeing the little teaser that we got from Black Panther in the film. And you can ask anybody that I saw in that movie. My standouts from Civil War were literally Black Panther and Spider-Man. Those were my two characters. I was like, I'm all about this. I'm ready to roll. Give me a black, Ant-Man was awesome, man. And the giant man tease. The giant man tease for me was amazing because I didn't see that shit coming. But to be completely honest with you, that movie ended and I couldn't stop thinking about Black Panther, where I was like, I need this film now. Because obviously, they even tease it at the end of Civil War that's the next movie coming, where you see Steve Rogers in fucking Wakanda.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I'm ready to roll. So, 2 years later, we finally get this film. And again, from the very beginning, you see Sterling K. Brown. I'm like, man, this is amazing. He's doing so good. You see the opening scene. You see the back and forth with fuck, man, I forget her name. Okoye.
Okoye.
Look at that, bro. I'm not in the inner geekdom, girl. I'm sorry. that back and forth with him and her and Lupita, and then the sister shirt. Like just everything's just building up, right? And then you see the first fight with M'Baku with Winston Duke, which I actually wore this shirt when I interviewed Winston Duke, and he loved this shit. I almost took it off, but I was like, dude, it's too small for you, man. But I would give it to you if it fits you. But I got to interview Winston Duke, and he said that, and it's crazy that because I interviewed him for Infinity War, right? Mm-hmm. And he was, everything that he said, it was crazy because even back then he said that everything that he grabbed from M'Baku, like his studying, he goes, it wouldn't have been because it was all because of Chadwick, and that's something that I always took away. And especially where we are now, like in this time of day where you're like, shit, man, like this guy was so impactful to just everybody, but seeing again Winston Duke in the film, that first scene where they fight, and again kind of going where what Anthony said with Michael B. Jordan's character, Killmonger is in my top 3 favorite Marvel villains ever, and I get shit all the time for it, but I just love this performance because it was literally one of the first times where I sympathized with the villain, where I'm like, he ain't wrong. You guys kind of fucked him.
Got a point.
He's got a point, and the hey auntie line, everything about, like, I just love everything about the film. I love that line. And you said it best. Tell me you weren't bumping this soundtrack.
So good. All the stars.
All the month. All the month.
At the end, in the end credits with all the stars, like me and my family were just like...
Yes, dude. And I promise you, that movie ended. Again, I got to see it. We got to see it 3 weeks early. Besides the people that saw that movie, who do you talk to about this film? That's why I hate seeing films sometimes early. Like it happened with the only person I got to see Endgame with was with Kyle. So I'm like, dude, like whenever I needed to like vent about something, it was only him, because everybody else asked me how was Endgame, and I was like, I can't say. But Black Panther was another one where we're like, dude, is it? And I felt like I was just such a spokesperson advocate. Like, you need to go see this movie. You need to support it. Never in a million years did we think it was going to make the money that it did. Never. Okay. Never. This shit was it was monstrous, well deserved, because again, and it's not, and we can go back to see the Marvel episode that we did, the 4-hour-long Marvel episode, which I will never fucking forget. And I said fucking twice there. But I've loved this film from the moment I saw it. This is one of the few films that I've seen multiple times in the theater. I saw Black Panther 4 times in the theater.
Me too.
4 times. It was the first time I saw a Dolby film in the theater, and then I forever changed my life from there. But I just felt like this was just such a and again, I'm not black. I understand that. I love the culture though. I'm a big culture guy, and and I just felt like everything that was done for this film was done so right and so authentic that I was like, you fucking guys deserve this. This is it. And and rent. I love this movie.
So let me come at this as a white guy then. Number one, before I get into the more serious stuff, I want to say he's funny as T'Challa.
Oh, hell yeah.
People talk about it. One of my favorite moments from him in Civil War that led into Endgame is when he's fighting Hawkeye and he's like, I don't think we've met yet. I'm Clint. I don't care. and
then, I don't care.
When they had that callback, I cried at that callback.
Yes.
When he calls his name, he's like Clint. Yes. I was like, he said his name because he cares now.
It's so funny. And then the moment, there's 2 more moments. Another one was when in Infinity War, when they get off the ship and Mark Ruffalo's like, do we bow? And Don Cheadle's like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, he's a king.
We don't do that. That's funny. And then finally, when he is in with Shuri testing out all this equipment, and she's got her camera out as he's testing out the suit, and he goes flying across the room. You gotta delete that footage. It's so good, man. He's really funny. So, another thing that sticks out to me about Black Panther is Oscars. This movie to me is the symbol for superhero movies with Oscars, showing that they can win. I know people like to point at The Dark Knight. I get it. All you Nolanites love that movie. All right, it's good. It's a great movie. Hey,
Relax.
you want to mute your mic again, Jader? But this is the movie that I look back as the one that opened the door for any superhero movie to win Oscars now, because it was definitely a contender to win. I think a lot of people towards the end of the cycle were really expecting it to win. I know it went to Green Book, which was so stupid, but you have films like Black Klansman and A Star Is Born and Black Panther all sitting there, and it felt like after that SAG one, Black Panther was really in the pole position to win, and I thought it might have stuck up there.
Yeah.
But it got 3 Oscars.
Yeah.
It got tons of awards throughout the entire process. I'll never forget Chadwick Boseman looking back at Michael B. Jordan after Green Book won.
Yeah.
Good. So I look at it at that point, and then the perspective I want to look at it the most is, as a white man, I get to see these superheroes all the time. I get to see my Iron Mans, my Spider Mans, my Ant Mans. Like that's me. I get when I watch Guardians of the Galaxy, I connect to Peter Quill and Rocket Raccoon. A combination of those two is who I feel like I am. But the African American community really had no superhero to look up to. You look at Blade, but Blade wasn't really a family-friendly type of superhero for kids to say, that's me. So when kids see Civil War and get to connect to Black Panther right there, like you said, Jader, he was the one people were talking about. I remember Leslie Jones seeing this movie like a year and a half later on Twitter and going crazy, saying like, "Oh, who's this man? I can't wait to see more Black Panther." And then you see the movie, you see a video that was going around from Jimmy Fallon after Chadwick passed away of he's him standing behind a curtain as people are just telling them how much Black Panther means to them. And then he comes out and surprises them. You can see how much it means. And then finally, there's, like you pointed out earlier, Jader, there's these photos going around of kids having funerals for him with their toys and then doing the Wakanda symbol. It's just, that's what's always going to lock into me for Chadwick's legacy is what he meant to a whole generation of kids now and in the future when they get to see Black Panther, all the kids in the future down the road, because it's always going to be the first. He was our first. He's the guy who opened the door for all these other possibilities. You know, you had Ray Fisher as Cyborg the year before. Nobody cared, but Black Panther comes out. T'Challa, he is a symbol for a lot of people. So I really respect that. Let's go into our favorite Chadwick Boseman moments. Just real quick.
Hold on, very quick. Anthony, are you a DC guy?
Am I a what?
A DC guy over Marvel. Oh, okay. How's that Cyborg film working out for you, bro?
Wow. Burn him like that.
Throwing shade.
Black Panther, bro.
I want to say
all ships, all right? This isn't a comedy.
You're right. I'm playing, bro.
All right. I want to say my favorite moment from Chadwick Boseman in any of his films comes in Infinity War. And I remember screaming and cheering for this, getting really hyped up. And it's the moment where they're about to run in the port when the dome's about to open. They're about to run, and he's doing the chanting, "Imbombat," like they made. Oh my gosh, that gets me fired up. I want to run through a wall for Black Panther at that moment, and it's so cool. And then when it finally opens up. And they go running, and him and Captain America.
Him and Steve Rogers.
Yes.
And then he wins. He wins that run at the end. He's the first guy to show all my troops, hey, I'm your leader for a reason. I'm going to be the one who's out there fighting with you. I'm not going to stand back and let everyone else do it. I'm going to be there on the front lines with you. That is awesome. I get fired up every single time I watch it. So that's my moment. Anthony, let's go to you, man. What's your Chadwick Boseman moment that stands out to you the most?
From his Black Panther?
Anything.
From anything? Oh my gosh. Jesus. From anything? You did take away one of mine, because that is one of mine.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Endgame, and I'm like, ugh, like you can't help but get pumped when you hear him say that. Oh man. But iconic moment, and I guess one that just comes to mind because it just it's hard not to, because it's a clip that got passed around a lot, was I think it's in Civil War where he's talking with Black Widow about the passing of his father, and he says that it's a stepping off point, and like death isn't the end; it's a stepping off point. And I felt like in this point in this time, it's mirroring real life in many ways, and I feel like, at least for me, that's the one that kind of comes to mind right away.
Jeannine, what is your Chadwick Boseman moment?
Well, just to bounce off of yours, actually, that whole scene, like if you watch Infinity War with the commentary, that there's actually a really great story about that whole kind of scene. Like Black Panther hadn't come out yet, the Russos hadn't seen it yet. So when all the like Wakanda people and Chadwick showed up, they just started doing those chants. They just started doing the war chants, and the Russos were like, "What is this?"
Unscripted.
Yeah. The
Love
Russos
it.
hadn't seen Black Panther, so they were like, "What is this?" And so they kept it in there because, well, this is awesome. This is amazing. Yeah, like all Chadwick and all of them just showed up starting the Ibambe, and the Russos were like, "What is happening right now? This is amazing." So yeah, that was all Chadwick and the Black Panther cast just showing up and doing that without anyone telling them to do that. Because yeah, the Russos had no concept of that yet because Black Panther had just finished filming. So I love that moment. So yeah, watching Infinity War with the commentary is great. But just a small one I really loved was kind of like he does all this kick-ass shit, like right at the beginning of Black Panther, he fights all those guys in the dark, you know, before he sees Lupita. And then when he sees her, he just says, "Hi."
Hi.
And so that just felt so real to me, just because, you know, he's more serious and things like that. So I just loved him just kind of, you know, antelope in headlights, just kind of, he turns into this shy boy when he sees the girl he likes. So I really loved that. Another moment I really liked was him standing up to his dad and the other ancestors once he kind of realized that, you know, Killmonger is right about a lot of things, about how they were wrong to not help the rest of the world with everything they had. And he shouts at them and he's like, "You're wrong. You know, we should have helped our brothers and sisters when we could. This was wrong of us to, you know, just hide away and, you know, be cowards." And I loved that moment. It was just so powerful of him standing up to all the ancestors in the ancestral plane. So that's a scene I really love.
Jader, you know, what's your moment, man?
Bro, we're all gonna talk about his Black Panther moments, huh? I want to say my favorite moment is where in the meme tweets where they're like, "How did the coolest guy in the galaxy get some white bread ass name like Chadwick?" That's probably my favorite moment. No, I'm just playing. Let me tell you, where he like solidified his badassness, right, was in the post-credit scene of Civil War, where Captain America goes to him. He goes, "If they find out he's here, they'll come." And he goes, "Let them try." That, for me, I was like, get up. This is it. Give me Black Panther right now, like double feature, even though it wasn't even out yet. Like, give it to me. I need this shit right now. That is probably one of my favorite lines that he's ever said, because he just solidifies him as like fucking badass, man. So that for me, again, and we've said this a million times. We've said so many different, like, there's so many just great moments. He's definitely gonna be someone that's gonna be missed, man. He was gone way too soon. I know early on the show, Tim had a question. I'm gonna scroll up a little bit.
Oh shoot, yeah.
Yeah, where it says, "What do you guys think of not replacing T'Challa in Black Panther 2 and just laying him to rest and have Shuri be the new Black Panther?" Disney said they wouldn't do it. I don't know. I thought that maybe Disney or Feige or Marvel knew that he had cancer. You said that they didn't. I didn't know too much about that. Excuse me.
They had no idea. Yeah. Coogler didn't even know about it. Look at this long letter he put out. No one had
Spike didn't even know. Yeah.
No, one knew. No, I know a lot of people didn't know. I didn't know if he was like, "Hey, look, the sequel's not gonna happen or might not happen because of this, so they can better prepare themselves." I was wondering, I'm like, did he give a blessing? What's going on? What's gonna happen? Like, there's been a lot of theories going around that maybe they use the Soul Stone and bring back Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger, but he's gonna be the Black Panther. You know, the only logical thing to do, because look, at the end of it all, like, I feel like this is way too soon to even be talking about Black Panther 2.
Yeah.
You know, like my mind, and it's crazy because you know what? You know what's fucked up? Like when Paul Walker died, I'm like, well, what about Fast 8? What's gonna happen? Or Fast 7, whatever the fuck it was. I was like, what's gonna happen with that? You know, like with him, it didn't go there for me. Like
No,
when
that wasn't
I
my first thought at all.
with his passing, I was like, fuck. I'm like, this sucks. This
Yeah, like
sucks. And it wasn't
I
like,
heard the
oh,
news
this
and I
sucks,
just put
I'm
on
not gonna
Black
get
Panther. Yeah.
yeah. I'm like this, and it wasn't a this sucks. We're not getting Black Panther 2. It was this fucking sucks because he was fantastic.
Amazing.
Exactly. So my mind didn't go there, and then obviously the next day you're like, oh shit, what's gonna happen? You know, because I am a Marvel fan, Anthony. but you know, at the end of it all, if you read the comics, you know, Shuri does take. You know, she the mantle. She does become Black Panther. She's fantastic in the movie. She was actually like, you know, that I feel like is a definitely breakout role. If they go that route, I wouldn't be mad, to be completely honest with you. I just feel like it's too soon to talk about, to be completely honest with you.
Here's the thing.
But go ahead.
What's going to happen from just a logical perspective? Unfortunately, Black Panther 2 is going to get put on the back burner. That's the way it's going to go. This movie is supposed to come out in 2022. That means by now the script was probably done. Yeah. And now you have to completely toss out that script and start over. Ryan Coogler has to start writing something else. They got to structure everyone's schedules, figure all that out. They were ready to start shooting next year. It was going to happen. And now you really have to rethink everything. What you're going to see, I think, is you're going to see movies like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 move up in production. You're going to see all these, Thor 4, all this stuff is Captain Marvel 2. That's all going to move up. As far as recasting, he's not going to get recast. You're not going to see John David Washington.
T'Challa's done.
It's the number one job nobody's going to want in Hollywood because that is Chadwick Boseman's character forever on out. Makes sense for Shuri to one day take over the mantle. Yes. But they have a lot of thinking they need to do right now. Yeah. You can't recast it. They really need to think this story through. How are they going to address it in the Avengers? Are they going to address it in Black Panther? It's not important right now. It's something that these executives in Marvel are making all these decisions, are scratching their head, and they're going to need time. So you're not going to see this for a while, which sucks. Jeannine, I want you to kind of address this, and then give me your final thoughts on Chadwick Boseman's legacy and what he's kind of going to mean to you going forward.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't my first thought when I heard the passing. Like, my first thought was I put on Black Panther and cried all the rest of that day. Because, I was super excited to just watch the Kevin Smith match. It was going to be my birthday the next day. I was super hyped. And then I realized my birthday is cursed because a lot of famous people, have died around my birthday. I think, Aaliyah died on the 27th. Yeah. And Princess Di died on the 31st. And, my birthday is totally cursed. So.
Well, that's because the Terminator, that's Judgment Day.
Judgment Day. My birthday's on Judgment Day.
Judgment Day.
Yeah. I was heartbroken and I just wanted to watch him again in something that I loved. So I wasn't even really thinking about that. If anything were to happen, I could see the most logical thing happen being Shuri taking over the mantle. I don't think I would want to see, and I don't see them ever recasting that spot. No. But yeah, in general, I mean, I have watched some of his movies that I hadn't seen before for the first time, and he was just a powerhouse. And like I said at the beginning, it was such a testament to who he was that he knew, since 2016, he knew that this is what was happening. And he made sure that he made an impact in that time, that he did roles that highlighted Black people in such a beautiful, powerful, positive way, that he went to visit kids who were sick, that he portrayed T'Challa in the best way possible. Even with 21 Bridges, that was not the best movie ever, but there's a scene where he's hard running, and I'm now looking at that and I'm just he was putting his all into this, knowing this was just last year, and he was putting his all into that. So, just seeing his movies now with this, new eye, just shows how amazing he was, what determination he had, how important it was for him to portray Black people in such a positive light, that was so important to him, that he, did what he had to do and, didn't want people to feel sorry for him, didn't want that to be the focus of his career, that he made sure he left an impact. He hasn't done a lot of movies, but it hit everyone so hard because the movies he did were important, and he gave amazing performances, and he put thought and effort into everything he did. And that is just a testament to who he was. And I think that's very special. And I'm going to miss him forever. Like, this is such a tough loss.
Yeah.
Anthony, final thoughts, man?
Again, it's obviously devastating, but I think if there's one thing that I think all of us can take from it is that even though his filmography and everything, he's iconic for the roles that he's played, the stories that we're hearing of him as a person are superseding all of that, which is an even bigger testament, I think. And you know, in the small little amount of time that, you know, I met him on that one interview, the man was absolutely kind, absolutely nice, absolutely willing to, you know, play a dumb game with a reporter that was like nothing, and he had fun with it, and such an incredibly genuinely nice guy, a guy that never, I think, took his job very seriously. Like, he never became like a celebrity. He was just Chadwick Boseman. And again, obviously it's going to be something devastating for all of us, but at the end of the day, like, there's also a lot of stuff that we can take from him staying silent about what he was going through, keeping it private, that he was still planning for the future. And I think all of us can still, you know, take something from that and put it into our lives as well. So I know it's a very hard time for everybody involved, especially his family, but this is something where I think all of us, there's something to learn for all of us.
Jader?
Man, you guys are kind of hitting the nail on the head again. I know I've said this over and over again, but what's not to say about this man? You know, he was fantastic. Again, he showed up to work every single time. It doesn't matter what role he got. At the end of the day, we even talked something as small as he had in draft day, that he was probably in the film a total of maybe 20 minutes, maybe.
No, 5.
Not even, right? Exactly. So 5 minutes of the film, and we ended up talking about it tonight because, you know, what little film time he had, he made an impact, you know, and it happens over and over. We talked about, you know, Get On Up. We talked about Marshall. We talked about, you know, obviously his bigger films, 42 and all that stuff. But, like, you know, Five Bloods, which he had a cameo in. Little things like that where that man showed up to work. You know, no matter what he did, he always gave 120%, 110,000%, whatever the hell you want to call it. So for me, you know, that's what his legacy is. You know, it sucks. I feel like obviously gone way too soon. I said it right before you guys started talking. Like, he's gonna be missed, man. And especially when we know, again, because, you know, Black Panther, you know what? It's inevitable. The sequel is gonna happen. Whether they replace him or not, they bring Michael B. Jordan or not. I don't feel like they're gonna give the thing to the shrine to Shuri right away. I hope they do. I don't think so. And I'll tell you why. One of the things, I don't think they're gonna give up the character of Black Panther because it's such a popular character. But at the same time, you know, you still have little boys growing up that are gonna look up to a T'Challa, you know, and even if you recast them, like, that's a new hero they're gonna look up to. I don't feel like they're just gonna get rid of that character and be like, T'Challa's dead, he's gone. You have Shuri now, which again, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, if you will, because, you know, you want young Black girls to have someone to look up to. You get me? But at the same time, young Black boys that grew up, that saw Black Panther, that are 4, 5, 6 years old, they're gonna want to look up to somebody. So I feel like he might get recasted, and, you know, we're gonna get upset with it because at the end of it all, that was his role. Don't be surprised if Disney, you know, feel like Disney's gonna try to make the best move. You know, I don't feel like they're gonna try to disrespect them in any way possible. It just sucks for us that we thought, again, we saw him, we saw him in the big screen, and we loved him. Even, you know, the DC guy here that said, like, you know, whatever, this, I'm not a big Marvel fan, but he ended up watching the movie and saying, hey, like, this is not that bad. It just sucks. It hurts, man. It really does, because I felt, again, he had a little role, then he got a bigger role, then he got a bigger role, then he got his biggest role, and he was just going up there, like he was just getting to the top. I felt like his life was cut way too short. I'm sorry, guys. Give me a second.
No, you're good.
But kind of my final words, man. I don't feel like it's gonna be the last that we see of T'Challa. I don't feel like it's gonna be him. A lot of people are talking about digitalizing the face. I think that's gonna be done in poor taste if they do that. But at the end of it all, I mean, for the moment we had him here and the films that he gave us, we all we can do now is look back on them and appreciate them. And I hope tonight, for our viewers, I know it's a 2 hour. It's probably the second longest show that we've done, and I feel like it deserves it, because this man deserves to be talked about. But any movie that was slept on, and again, we didn't even go through his whole filmography. But if there's any movie, that you guys haven't seen, give it a shot. Like, give it a watch, because you'll yourselves, you'll be, your own judge at the end of it all. But I feel like you will find some good ones. Again, with Marshall, I had seen that movie. I saw this movie for the first time 4 days ago, Five Bloods and all that. And again, that man showed up to work every single time. I haven't seen 21 Bridges, but you just told me that, obviously knowing this movie was just a year ago, Anthony, you interviewed him, and you're telling me there's a scene where he's like full throttle running after this man knows that he has cancer. Like, again, again, we touched very quick on the subject that this man knew that he was fighting this fucking disease, but he was still showing up and giving hope to kids that were fighting it as well, knowing damn well nobody else knew. He knew that he was fighting it, and he was still going, and he was still showing up to hospitals, and he was still showing up as Black Panther and giving the kids a hope. That's a superhero. That's what a superhero does. So again, he's gonna be missed, man. I wish we had more time. I wish we had more screen time with him. But that's life, man. That really is, and I'm gonna leave it like that. He's gonna be missed. His film, what he did, everything that he's done, and just if you're gonna go based off Marvel alone, like, what a legacy, just based off that one character, Black Panther. And I loved what Jeannine said, that knowing what he did and taking the roles that he did, just to give shine light on important historical characters that he did. That's phenomenal, because I guarantee you, had they known, again, and this was touched even earlier, that had he opened his mouth, they probably wouldn't have insured him. They probably wouldn't have given him the roles, and like, maybe he wouldn't have gotten in the Thurgood Marshall movie, which again can be debated that it wasn't or was or whatever it was, but we got one, and no one knew that he was fighting this, and we ended up getting one. Same thing goes with with everything else he's done. So man, he's just gonna be missed, man. It sucks. It really sucks. This was one of those deaths that like we literally, I think we were all like, this guy is going somewhere, and this guy is this is not the end for him, and he's just gonna just skyrocket from here on out, and life's a bitch.
It's one of those things where, like I said earlier with Kobe, same thing with Chadwick. We're supposed to watch our heroes grow old and go off into the sunset. They have a second half of their careers. We're supposed to watch them transition into their second half of their lives and grow old and get to, and show what their work did to the next generation. And we're not going to get to see that with Chadwick, with Kobe, with any of these people. And it sucks. It really does. And that's where the word legacy comes into play. What's the legacy they're going to leave? And just based off the reaction that we've seen a week later still, his legacy is going to roar throughout history for a long time. For him to have such an impact in such a short amount of time is really something that hasn't been done too often. You think of someone like James Dean or Marilyn Monroe, these figures who only were in a couple films and then passed away, and you felt like they had so much more to give. Chadwick's falling into that category now, but I think the difference between them and Chadwick is we could see what was going to happen. We could see that this guy really had something more left to give. he inspired so many people, so many that kids out there who want to be Black Panther, who want to learn about James Brown and Jackie Robinson. The teachers put on 42 when they're studying, when it's Black History Month. They'll probably see Chadwick Boseman 3 times in Black History Month for all these kids in school. So it's so inspiring what he was able to do battling cancer throughout all these years, and he's really gonna leave an impact going forward. And we haven't seen the last of him. He's got another movie coming out later this year on Netflix called Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. So I feel like we're kind of blessed in a way that we still have one more performance left to take in and to experience for that first time, which is going to be really, really incredible. So look out for that at the end of the year. But to wrap it all up, Chadwick, you're going to be missed. Rest in peace. You truly are a figure that you'll be talking about for a long time. So, guys, that's going to do it for the Jader and Kyle Show, episode 22. Real quick, it feels weird to say this, but any plugs, Anthony, Jeannine? Let's start with you, Anthony. Anything you want to throw out real quick?
Nah, man. Nah.
Okay, Jeannine.
Check out the It's a Wonderful podcast feed. We have 3 shows over there, me and my co-host Morgan Robinson. Every Monday we have Machine Mondays, where I'm talking all things Schmodown. Wednesday we have Morgan Hasn't Seen, where I force him to watch movies he hasn't watched. Right now we are doing the Twilight series, so he is hating that, but it's fun. And on Fridays we have It's a Wonderful Podcast, where we give love to those old classic films. So find the It's a Wonderful Podcast feed, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Spotify, all places podcasts can be found.
And Jeannine, congratulations. I saw you got a match coming up now too, which is really
cool. Undercard match for Merle versus Bateman. So yeah, I kind of thought I was gonna be chilling maybe the rest of the season. So, and I was giving singles a break, but I'm back. So I am at the point where I don't give a shit about records. I don't give a shit about standings. I'm just going to go in there and do my best, like I always do, have fun. And, yeah.
I'm not supposed to like you because you're going against my factory.
Yeah,
so
right.
I can't say anything, but
Jader, it was a fun episode, man.
It was.
It's an episode we needed to have, and I'm really happy we did. Guys, we'll be back next week with a regularly scheduled episode. We'll keep you updated always on the Facebook page on what's going on. So please be on the lookout for that. But Jader, any final words, man?
No, man, we're good. Honestly, I think we left it all on the stream. Be kind to each other. Go get checked. One of the things we talked about honestly was the fact that the man was showing up to things or pictures were getting posted of this man, and he was super skinny, obviously fighting cancer, and everybody was talking about that he lost the strength of the Black Panther, but it wasn't even lightly put the way that it was. It was born in an asshole fucking way. So you never know anybody's struggle. And again, some people decided to public, there's some people that, scratch their fucking finger and they're like, Instagramming their finger and they're like hospital life or some shit. And there's just some people that keep that shit private, with more serious matters. Either way, just respect a lot of each other, go get checked, do what you got to do, because the earlier you catch this shit, I already told you that I lost a friend, one of my closest friends, to colon cancer. It sucks, and most of this shit, I mean, sometimes it's inevitable, and sometimes this shit is just something that you can prevent. So I know it gets teased around because it's colon, and some shit goes up places that are not supposed to be going up there. But overall, just do it, man. And just, again, you don't know what a person's struggle is. So my final word is, to be honest, just be nice to each other, man. Just be kind.
Exactly. Guys, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time on another episode of the Jader and Kyle